In the Writer's Chair, candid conversations about the writing life with Lana McAra and Vendela Publishing.
Welcome to In the Writer's Chair, where we pull up a chair to talk about writing craft, the writing life, and what's possible for writers right now. Today, I am delighted to welcome three of our Vendela authors to the podcast. This is our first time doing a roundtable, even though the table's not round. And I'm excited to hear what all of our authors have to say. We are local in the Jacksonville, Florida area, and that's why we were able to get together today. So let's start off with everyone telling a little bit about who you are and maybe mention the title of your book before we get started. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, my name is Chris Koehler. I live in Fernandina Beach, Florida. My book is Cracked Island, which actually was published over 10 years ago, but it's out of print now, and Vendela Press is going to be doing a second edition. That means it's also going to have some changes made to it. The story is going to be virtually the same, but just a little, I think, better written in certain areas because we've had more time to make some changes and get suggestions and so forth. So my background is I was a university professor at Southern Illinois University. Fisheries and aquatic biology were my specialties. I published a lot of papers in the sciences. I'm still an editor of a journal that is published by Oxford University Press. And so I'm used to things on that end of it. The novel side of it is not quite so used to.
My name is Harry Martinez. I am a former Marine. I am a retired police officer, and I recently retired from the Army National Guard after 30 years of service in the infantry as a sergeant major. And I'm here because I wrote that book. One is a warrior, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the day.
And I'm your host, Lana McAra. I'm the author and ghostwriter of 50 published titles with 1 million copies sold, and I'm the host of In the Writer's Chair, along with a lot of other hats as well. So let's keep this moving. The first question I have, and I'm going to throw the questions out, and I'm going to let you volunteer to answer. I don't want to buttonhole anybody, but I love the way discussions happen. What first inspired you to write this particular book? Was it an incident, a person? What was it?
I could start. I did a lot of work in my previous profession in Haiti. And Haiti is an incredible country. And I had so many experiences there and met so many people, not just Haitians, but people from all over. And it was just an amazing place. So I got it in my head that I would love to be able to write a novel someday where I bring all the elements of the sights and the scenery and the people and the religions and all those things together, and where people would read it and they would actually learn. I guess as an educator, I find myself always wanting to educate people. And I thought, what better way to do that than to write a novel, particularly a suspenseful thriller type novel. And so that was my goal, in my thoughts the whole time I put the book together.
I'm working alongside 3 college kids. 6 months prior to being on that rooftop, they were in college, focused on their lives. And as citizen soldiers, they answered the call. And I found them to be intellectual. I found them to be arrogant. And I was pleased with that. You have to be. And I found them open-minded, which was refreshing. And 20 years later, I thought, you don't often hear of the citizen soldier and how he participates today in combat operations or around the world, and what has changed from a force that used to be in reserve to a force now in operations. A lot of people are misinformed, or they're simply not understanding that the Army National Guard plays significantly in overseas operations from strategic all the way to the tactical level. And we can go into that later, but basically what that means is we make up 39% of the combat power around the world because we assist on a daily basis regular Army efforts and the National Strategic Defense. So I just looked at a pen and I became a witness and I looked out my textbook.
As a young girl, I grew up in a hair salon, and my mother had a hair salon in the front of the house. And I grew up in real tough circumstances, was having a hard time in life. And I started to write "Help Me" all around my home on pieces of paper. And help started coming in the form of learning from the celebrities in the magazines of the hair salon. And my first two teachers were Mother Teresa and Elizabeth Taylor. And I continued to learn and grow from celebrities. And as I, over the years, worked with groups and worked with individuals in order to impart these wonderful life tools to them, I began to tell them the stories, exactly how I had learned from the celebrity. And after doing that a number of years, it came to me to write a book. And I want to reach more people. I still use these tools, and I want to share them with others.
That provokes a lot of questions for me.
Well, I love that.
And being Catholic and being raised in a parochial school system, we learn about Mother Teresa in Calcutta. Is that the same one you referred to?
Yes, yes. Those were my first two teachers.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Give me an example of each one.
Okay. Well, here I was in this little small town, Midwestern village, and Elizabeth Taylor gave me permission to believe there was a way out of there. There was a bigger life for me, a more glamorous life. And who knows, maybe I'd even have a yacht. And in this, the juxtaposition, Mother Teresa was in the magazines a lot because she just won the Nobel Peace Prize. And there was a little, just a little insert in a circle in which there was a story where a woman asked her, she told Mother Teresa, "I want to come and help you with your mission in Calcutta." And Mother Teresa told her, "No, don't come. Look in your backyard and find your own Calcutta." And so that sparked a search for me to get on and find my mission in life.
Did anyone here think they wanted to quit in the middle of writing the book? And what caused you to think that way, and what caused you to keep going?
I came in at the tactical level writing this book. As my career continued to evolve and I reached the pinnacle of my career, becoming a sergeant major, I started to see it from all three levels. But one thing is clear, that at the end, when I was in Baghdad over a year, I realized that I was seeing another approach, and I decided I'm going to finish the book, and I wrote over 25,000 words in 10 days.
I had thought about writing my book for many, many years, but never really. Just had the idea of how I would start it, and maybe about how it might end, and not having any clue as to, how I was going to get from A to the end. So I all of a sudden found myself in a situation one time with work where I was asked to be a consultant in Hawaii, of all places. And, but it turned out I didn't have anything to read, and I was in a place where I didn't have any television. There was nothing to do. And I finally told myself, well, maybe now's the time I should start writing the book. So I started writing and writing and writing. And I've got, I probably got 5 or 6 chapters written, in about a week's time. And I was that's all my free time. That's what I was doing. And it work didn't really conflict with that, because during the day I had these things I was doing as a consultant, but at night I had all that time. And then when I got back home, well, then I had to kind of relegate how I was going to do that. And so maybe now I can work on it a little bit here, a little bit there. But I stayed with it. And my goal was just to get to the end. And I knew nothing about how the industry of novels and books and all that worked. In science, I know exactly how it all works in terms of getting things published in journals and everything else. But I had no idea what the deal was here. And And I didn't even really want to know. I figured I'm just going to write the book. I don't know anybody who's written a book. I had no knowledge of, had never even run into anybody who had ever written a novel. But so I just kept working on it until I got the first draft done. That took, I don't know, maybe a year or so, a little more than that. But then I started working on, editing it. And then I spent probably more time, years, editing what I'd already done, adding to it, taking things out and so forth. But I never, ever thought about not doing it. My goal was to get this thing done. And not knowing anything after that I was going to be faced as far as getting it published. I had no knowledge of that. I thought, once you get it done, you get it published. I learned the hard way that, like everybody else does, it's not quite that easy. But I really did just stick with it and wanted to get it done. I wanted to get to the end of the story. And I would read every chapter when I finished it, the first draft, to my wife that night before we go to bed. And she would always just encourage me. She wanted to know what was going to happen next. And I found that I didn't know what was going to happen next. I mean, it's like, I want to know that too. And that's what really kept me writing, is I want to know what's going to happen next, because I'm making it up. But I always thought like I knew where I was going with it. So that helps in writing, I think, not know exactly where you're going with it, because then you want to see, you want to see where it's going. And so that's kind of how that all worked out for me.
Well, mine's short and sweet. And my biggest thing was getting started, making the commitment to start. So I never got it started and thought about quitting. But it took me a while to commit to starting. And I found myself going through my life saying, is this all there is? I got a great life, but is this all there is? I think I was bored, maybe not stretching myself enough. And a big holdup was, I don't want to do, I had a sense it was going to be some work. I'm like, I don't want to do a whole bunch of work and it not sell. I really wanted people to read my book. I'm like, I don't want to do all that work and people not want to read my book. One day I was sitting in front of my computer. I sat there and I thought, I think I'm going to die. I think I'm going to die. I just feel like that. And a couple of days later, I ran into a girlfriend and I told her about my experience. And she said, whenever you have a dream that's calling you and you're not getting on the path of doing your dream, that's how you feel. Like you really got to do the dream. Say yes to the dream. So I said yes. Then all the wonderful work came.
Yeah. It takes longer and it's harder than most people expect. That's par for the course. For me, I wrote my first book, which this is a reprint of it. For 14 years, I was submitting it to traditional publishers, and I got 19 rejections. And believe me, there were many times I would throw that manuscript in the drawer, slam the drawer, and say, I'm done. But you notice I didn't throw it in the trash.
Yeah. Like Stephen King did.
Yes.
With Carrie.
Yes. And then months later, I would be pulling it. I get an idea. Next thing you know, it's all out there on the table again. And I just couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I knew I had a good idea. And that was what kept me going. So, has the writing of this book changed you personally in any way?
I wanted to move away from the concept of leadership is simply influence. Leadership is honestly, brutally, and under sometimes the most difficult circumstances, responsibility. And that's what I wanted to put into the book.
I would say for me, it's made me bigger. It's made me more. I do have a confession to make. I'm going to be a published author, but I'm really not a writer. I hate writing. And I'm a speaker for years. I use my hands. And so to take myself and allow a development to come in which I could put those words onto the paper and into the computer really challenged me, and it really stretched me. And I read a lot and others read a lot. I talk a lot about how important it is to do something new. And doing something new, the older you get, the more challenging it is, I believe, because we've mastered so much. And to do something new, you feel awkward. I felt vulnerable. And the pushing through of that really a challenge and developed parts of me that I didn't even know I had in me.
I remember going back as a young child, I was always a storyteller. I could just tell stories. I could just, right off the top of my head. I remember one time, and I think I was in 4th or 5th grade, and everybody had to go up and tell a story. And I just started telling the story, and I was just making it up as I was going. And I went on and on and on. And back then, I liked everything that had anything to do with horror. So Frankenstein, the Mummy, the vampires, Dracula. And I just would come up with a story, and I incorporated every one of them. And then as soon as I almost be done, then I'd think, oh yeah, and then comes, and I bring in another one. And I think I went through the entire list of every comic book I'd ever, that part of it came very easy for me. And I guess it still does. Telling stories, I can tell stories. And I can just make them up off the top of my head if I need to. And so I think that was when I went into actual educational, and it was no longer stories. Now I'm just dealing with the truth. But having retired, now that I'm working on novels, it's the truth, but it's my version of it. I want people to learn the truth, but I want them to do it through a story. And so for me, telling stories and writing all comes hand in hand.
If readers could take away just one thing from your book, what would that one thing be?
I would say for me, it's live your joie de vie. Just let go and do what you love. Open up to receive more and more, and live a more sparkly life, even more sparkly life.
For me, and when writing this book, Cracked Island, which, by the way, is a metaphor for the earthquake that struck in 2010. But is I really wanted to tell a story, and I wanted people to, I figure very few people go there, have gone there, or will ever go there. But I wanted everyone to learn about the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and how wonderful the people are and the incredible culture they have and the history that goes all the way back to the Taino Indians that were there first, and then the Haitian slaves that were brought in from all over Africa. Columbus, this was one of the islands that Columbus arrived to in his first trip to the New World. And what story did he tell when he went back? He told the story to the Queen. There is gold on the people who live in Haiti, the Indians that were there. And that was his argument for being able to go back, for her to send him back to the New World, was all the gold. And she did. But when he got there, the Indians weren't wearing the eagle. They'd all figured out that that's why the Europeans were coming back, was to steal their gold. And so they hid it. And for hundreds of years, Columbus was accused of having made up that story just so he could get another voyage out of the Queen. I think it was 1961, an anthropologist in Haiti decided, you know what, I bet you he wasn't lying. He actually discovered the gold hidden in caves in Haiti, all of which was confiscated by Papa Doc. Well, it's a whole nother story there. But an article was written in the New York Times in 1961. It's titled something along the lines of Columbus Vindicated. The story was told me by someone while I was in Haiti, and that was really the main spark for writing the whole book. I just thought, this is incredible. That's just part of the history. It goes on and on and on. There's so much history there. It's just amazing. And I just wanted to be able to pass that on to other people.
I'm a storyteller myself from different angles, but I focus on history. I studied it in college. studied it in the military. We use a lot of our history for the purpose of illustrating a lesson and to hear another storyteller. It's unusual now for me at what I've done in my past, because usually I'm the one standing telling a story, but it captivates me to hear Haiti. Because I'll be perfectly honest, my introduction to Haiti was back in the 1990s when Haiti was losing control and there was a big division between the government and the people. And they had decided tentatively, let's begin to formulate plans to seize Haiti and bring it back under control. So I was a Marine Scout sniper, and we kept wargaming. Are we going to hit the Port-au-Prince, or are we going to come into another route, and who's going to work with us? And I thought, you know what? I've been so many, at that point I'd already been in Panama, Honduras, the borders of Nicaragua, working off of specific islands, Tiger Island, and we kind of stood up the Contras. And it was the first time the Marines were ever in Central America following the banana wars of the 1920s. And that was put on us too as, hey, we haven't been here in over 60 years. So be professional, you're ambassadors to your country. But without saying, the rule was, everybody that you meet, and I'm going to quote a famous general, every Marine who ever watches this will know what I'm talking about, smile, shake their hand, and have a plan to kill them. Because that's just the way the world was, and it still is in great degree. But Haiti, to hear somebody rave about Haiti, that's interesting. That is really interesting, and I would love to hear more stories.
Well, it goes back to the 1920s. My main character turns out it's going to be an ancestor of a Marine. Marine Sergeant.
Which one? I probably heard the name, but
Faustin Workus. He wrote the book, The White King of La Gonade. And in the 1920s, he was stationed in Haiti. Okay, at the Banana War. And the natives there, particularly on this island, they considered him to be the return of the White King, who was nobody other than Christopher Columbus.
Correct.
And they believed that he would always be coming back. And all of a sudden there was this Marine there, and it had to be him. He wrote a book, it's called The White King of La Gonade. And so obviously I brought that into my whole story. I thought, my main character is going to be, well, it turns out his middle name is Faustin. I better leave it there.
What advice would you give to someone who says, someday I'll write a book?
if I had to attack it in that manner, the first phase is the idea you're going to write a book. The second is completing the book. And the third phase is getting the industry to listen to you.
Okay.
But the point is, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to make your voice heard. You're going to have to maybe do a little Lyndon B. Johnson, grab the individual by the back of the elbow and shake him a little and say, listen to me.
Well, I would say take one small first step, like maybe do an outline. What I did was I did an outline, and I printed it all out, and I hole punched it and put it in a 3-ring binder, and see how you feel. And then maybe take the next small step. And there were times where I would write and I would not write. I would not write even for a couple of years because I was also living my life and enjoying the life I had and new grandchildren and new connections. And just start by taking some small steps and let it start rolling.
Yeah, I guess I sort of feel the same way as the other two authors, all three authors, I'm sure. You want to tell your story, and if you don't get it down in writing, it doesn't exist. And even if hardly anyone reads it, it's a piece of history. If you get it published anyway, state or form, it's out there. So it's part of something you really accomplished that will go way beyond you. even to this day, I hope that, even if I don't become famous while I'm alive, maybe all of a sudden it'll get discovered later on, because that happens all the time. That's just be part of my heritage that will pass on. And that's what people need to think about if they're writing a book, is that, it's part of you. A story you write, it becomes a part of you. Those characters seem real to you. You can't write about people, you make them up, but you got a vision in what they look like. He's just some sort of movie star of some type or another. But, you visualize these different people. You visualize yourself in these situations. And it's an interesting thing to do, but it is very, very challenging. I had no clue when I wrote this first book of what was involved in getting it published. I thought for sure that what I do is I'll wait till I get it written, and then I went to the library and, got a book on it, with all the list of all these different publishers. And I'm going through trying to pick out which 2 or 3 that I, think would be best for me. And then I just mailed off the whole manuscript to these different publishers, some which answered, some which didn't. But most of them were saying, well, you need to have an agent. But I was thinking, and I read about these agents, and I thought, well, why do I need an agent? I can negotiate this thing myself, but why? If you want the book, let me know, and then you can recommend who you think I should have as my agent. Yeah, I just thought that agent was someone there just to, work out the contract and blah blah blah, but it had nothing to do with actually getting it published. If I'd known any of those things, I don't sure if I would have written the book, but I already read it, so later on, then I started sending it off to agents. Now I got a book on that, and I went through it. At first, I thought, well, I'll pick an agent, and I just picked one out that lived not too far from me, the biggest city nearby me, which was St. Louis at the time. I found an agent was there, and looked like she would be good. So I figured, so I sent everything to her. About 2 weeks later, I get this big package back. I said, hey, golly, that's it. I got my contract. I open it up. I look at the big folder. I pull out the papers, the letter on top. I start reading it. I get to about 3 lines, and I realize, man, this sounds familiar. It was my letter. It was my letter that I submitted. Then I looked at what all the papers were behind it. It wasn't a contract. It was just that she had sent back my manuscript. Huh. And I go, well, what is this? And then I saw in very lightly written in pencil, all in the top corner of my letter, it says, not for me. That was my introduction to the whole situation. That's when I learned that, this isn't going to be easy. And this is going to take a lot of work.
My first contract was, I made $1,000 and no royalties. That's my first book. My second book was a work for hire. Another $1,000, no royalties. They owned it. I never did get the rights back to that book. Mm. And that's the way they were doing back in those days. And they were making tons and tons of money. So, yeah, after a while, you sit there and you wonder, what am I doing this for? What am I doing this for? Well, for me, I love writing. I just love it.
I love you that you love writing. When I hear people, they said, I type for hours in the morning. And I'm like, I've got a lot of notes from over the years, and I cut them out and I lay them into a paragraph. I tape them together, and then I type my paragraph, So I love you that you love writing. But I would like to address, we've thrown out hard work a lot in here in the last 15 minutes. And I want to distinguish between there's a hard work, or you're not getting anywhere, you're living in a frenzied life, and it creates a lot of stress within you. But this is a hard work of doing something that challenges you, doing something that's new for you, feeling your way. And so it actually, I think, feeds the body and feeds the soul in a different way than a different type of hard work. So I just don't want to scare off any listeners that it's a good hard work. I call it chop wood, carry water. Sometimes things in life just kind of, and we want this, that it just shows up on a silver platter. And then sometimes there's a time to chop wood, carry water, puts maybe blisters on your hands and some sweat on your brow. but it feeds you because you're on purpose.
On purpose. That's good. That's good. So I want to wrap this up by bringing one final question, and that is, what was your publishing decision and why did you go that route?
Well, I'll speak to publishing. While I was writing my book, I was concerned about publishing, and I tried to release that concern because I'm like, until I've written the book, there's nothing to publish. So I would get myself back on the writing, and I made my publishing decision, like I do many of my other decisions, through relationship. And I first met Lana a year and a half ago, and I started calling her my book mentor. And I saw her do a presentation, hour and a half. I was in the front table of the room, the millionaires table, the millionaires row. And so I made a commitment that I would drive the first Friday of every month, I'd drive an hour up to her 2-hour class and an hour home. And at that time, she was not in the publishing, she didn't own her own publishing company, but out of my relationship with her, I decided to choose Vendela. And I liked that that we can put our books on Amazon, and then Vendela handles it going to libraries in large print, to retail stores, and to bookstores. So I like that combination. And but it's about really respecting Lana as the leader and trusting Lana as a leader. That's how I made my decision.
Lana, being humble, looks at me and she goes, well, Harry, I just don't want to say anything because I'm not going to solicit my company to you because I think you have already a path you've chosen. But if you want to choose me to publish your book, we can sit down and discuss it.
Similar, I guess, story, in meeting Lana when she gave a presentation to the Beacon Island Writers Association, and she's talking about all kinds of different things and what they do and so forth, and how they move forward with things. And I previously published this book, but it's out of print, and the previous publisher is no longer in existence. It was one of the small publishing houses. It was a standard kind of regular publisher, but the book is no longer on Amazon. They show it, but they don't have any copies of it anymore. And so I hadn't even really thought about doing a second edition, and until I heard her talk. And so I kind of went up to her after the meeting and said, "Hey, do you do second edition?" She said, "Yeah, we do those." And now I find out her first book is that. And so I just told her a little bit about it. She said, "Well, send it to me. We'll let you know." But she seemed very open to it. And then I just got all this very good feedback, and it was like, this is a no-brainer. I'm not going to go through all that other stuff.
That's different than your thing.
So
I don't know how to feel.
So anyway, so just want to move forward with this, and I'm already looking forward to seeing it republished, and I'm hoping it's going to reach a much, much bigger audience, which is what I'm really hopeful for. And so I'm currently writing a third book. I'm that third through it, so we'll see where that goes. But it's got a Marine sergeant in it. But so anyway, that's where it all goes. But I'm looking forward to working with Vendela.
Yeah, we're happy to have you with us. Thank you. Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to mention about your next step or this project or anything at all that you want to bring out before we...
I have the website that I'm redoing now. Mm-hmm. And the goal was redoing it because it was mostly it's all about my original book, but now I might have a new cover for it and everything else, and the story's going to be slightly changed, not greatly, but a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I want to put that all out again. So anyway, I'm redoing my whole website. It's chriskoehler.com, but it's going to include, and I'm kind of setting it up so any books that come down the road, I guess, going to add them on easily rather than having it just based on a book. It's really more of the author webpage, mm-hmm. And then hopefully, like John Grisham's, well, yeah, ADM all in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I'm heading with that.
Well, I have a website ready to launch shortly just for my book, and I would love for you to find me at my website. You write me and I'll write you back. I'd love to do that. Mine is www.alexandraharris.com. I have long hair, and my last name is Harris.
Excellent.
I'm absorbing that.
Next one.
I will be launching a website soon. I don't have the address. I'm losing my hair, Alex, and then I'm not going to lie now. But I'm just grateful for the opportunity to sit here amongst other authors and hear their experiences, and I know that I'll probably look back on it and go, okay, where did I get from that? And you constantly have to do self-reflection to get to the next step. Don't stop.
Yeah. The last thing I'd like to add is that play with the team. Allow people to support you. You do not have to do it alone. Mentors will come. You'll attract sidekicks. You'll attract volunteers. And what you don't know, other people know. Authors very willingly share what they know with each other. It's a great community of people to be in. I grew up mostly like a self-cleaning oven. And the last few years, I've really worked on playing on a team better, leading a team better, playing on a team better, letting other people support me. That people will show up for you and your book. And you don't have to do it. You won't do it alone. And it's fun to have others help. I call people and they will just stop whatever they're doing and call me right back. You know, what do you need to know about this little section, Alexandra? So, yeah.
Well, it's our privilege to work with you, and I'm excited at what's ahead. We have a growing team of authors and team. We have 6 books in the pipeline right now.
That's great.
That are going to be coming out in the first of the year. So if you're interested in Vendela, look it up. Go on our website. Everything is there. I believe in full disclosure. And Vendela Publishing is V as in Victor, ENDELA, publishing.com. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thanks for pulling up a chair, and we'll see you next time.